Hey, what's up, gardening friends? Whoa. Chill. Jeff here, Tropical Plant Party. How's everybody doing? I hope you're good. I'm great. Today's video is long overdue, and it's a video that I meant to do a while ago. Somebody asked me in the comments a long time ago what my favorite palm tree is. I couldn't give them an answer. And this video is not about my favorite palm tree, it's about one of my favorite palm trees. I have a lot. And that is the Adonidia palm. Adonidia Merrillii, whatever, the Christmas palm or Manila palm. These are super cool palm trees. They're very common palm trees too, depending on where you live. Now, where I live, they're not that common. They're sold as a houseplant. I'll talk about that in a bit. But down in Florida, down in southern Florida particularly, these guys are everywhere. And they have different requirements, kind of depending on where you're keeping them. Overall, they're a pretty easy palm, especially outdoors. Indoors, they're a little bit more finicky. So these guys are native to Southeast Asia, like the Philippines, tropical rainforest type areas, meaning lots of water and heat. So if you don't live somewhere where things are consistently warm, they might be a little bit more of a challenge, kind of like they are for me. One of the things that I like so much about the Adonidia palm is their kind of dwarf-appearing stature. They're not an anchoring plant. They're not something you're going to put in your landscape to have as a large structure, but they accent things very, very well. They do great in pots. They do well in the ground. They're just not too finicky outdoors. And to me, and many other people say the same thing, they kind of resemble like a dwarf royal palm. Royal palms are awesome, beautiful, majestic palm trees, but they get massive. These do not. What, maybe 25 to 30 feet, I would think? And their trunk characteristics are going to vary on their care, their situation you have them in. These are a really nice, smooth-trunked palm with a crown shaft being the portion of trunk where the leaves emerge from. Nice and smooth, great trunks. You get rings. I love palm trees that have rings on their trunks. The ring spacing, there's variability in there. This one right here has been getting more sun than this one over there. And you can see this guy, the rings are spaced a little bit further apart, and that's because it's reaching a little bit more for the sun. And these two, as you can tell, are singles. They're solitary palm, but you often see them growing in groups. That's because you can put them together in groups, as in multis. You can have 2 of them growing together, 3 of them, as many as you want to try, and their roots grow well together. A lot of palm trees, you stick them together like that, and, you know, one trunk takes out the other, one root system takes out the other and dominates it. But these do well together. But these 2 are just singles. I do have a couple of triples, but they are in the big greenhouse for the winter time. These guys were just small enough that I decided to give them a go in my grow space this year, and so far they're doing well. Oh, and why are they called the Christmas palm? Well, around Christmas time, except for mine, they put out long branches, they're inflorescent, gets their seeds on them, and they're bright red, vibrant, and beautiful red seeds all over the inflorescence. I'll try and insert pictures and fancy things into this while I'm editing. Mine, however, nothing. Not this year. And there could be a few different reasons for that. One could be age, though they look big enough to me to put out an inflorescence. I think it's because we had a sudden cool snap and their growth really slowed. And nutrients. They're not getting something that they probably need to flower. Now, I generally fertilize these with the Peters XL. And really, what is it? Peters Palm Fertilizer. That's what I usually use on these guys. But I slowed their fertilizing down in the fall time because I wanted them to slow their growth a little bit before it got cold outside. And within a few weeks I'm going to resume fertilizing on these guys once I get temperature stabilized in my grow space. These are a self-cleaning palm, meaning that their old branches slowly die off on their own. That portion of the crown shaft turns brown and it'll fall off. Now, I just left this on for the video, or for the sake of the video, I should say. And one of my favorite things to do is to pull these guys off, but I always have to make sure they're ready, because sometimes I get a little excited and pull them too soon. But so you can see in here, this branch is ready to go, and it may not be quite to the point yet, but generally they just snap right off on their own when they're ready to go. Pops right off. So this one, really, I guess probably another week would have been good. But this being indoors, I like to keep things kind of tidy to help avoid pests. I don't like lots and lots of nooks and crannies. I try and avoid as much as possible. So same thing with this guy here. See how it's already peeling up on its own there? And so that one popped right off too. But see how this is kind of green and tattered in there? That's how I know that this one also probably could have waited a little bit to come off, but I'm taking it off now for the sake of the video to show you what I'm talking about. Done with you. These are so cool when grown as multiples because the trunks curve and they can do all kinds of fun, twisty, fun things. As solitaries, they tend to just grow straight up, depending on the sun and how you have them planted. But that's what mine are doing. That air plant comes down when I water it. I don't water the air plant while it's in there. I pull it out. I don't want to spray water directly into the crown when they're indoors because the airflow is a lot lower, temperature's a lot lower. It could lead to crown rot. But it looks pretty up there, doesn't it? So, to me, Adonidia palms just represent the tropics. There's just something so cute and adorable about them. And you really only see them in the subtropics you see them, but you don't see them in places with cool winters. Even Southern California, typically, if someone's growing these, they're only going to keep them for a couple years because the cooler part of the year is just too cool for them. They like heat. These are a heat-loving plant. Similar to a heliconia. Which is why these can be a little bit tricky sometimes to keep indoors because of them loving the heat and sunlight and water. And being very prone to spider mites when the air is dry. You can see I have some spider mite damage up here. Not even, well, the damage is there, I'm sure, but I have been treating these. I use a horticultural oil on a sponge and wipe the branches down. I'll have to do it several times to eradicate the problem, I'm sure. Happens every year. Spider mites love these guys when the air is dry. When I get the humidity up in here, it's slowly raising. That should get a little bit better, but ultimately the ones that are there, I have to get rid of. So, to keep these indoors, if you have a very bright spot in your home that's reasonably warm, this will probably do okay for you. But they do like water, and they're going to look their best when they're getting all their proper nutrients. So, make sure to fertilize them regularly. Change out their potting soil, I would say every single year, which I don't always recommend with palm trees because they're generally okay with being somewhat pot-bound and having poor soil, but these are going to look their best if they're getting some fresh soil, or at least try and get, 25 or 50% of the old soil out and do what you need to do. You do you. You figure that out on your own. But they're going to look their best with nice, rich, well-draining soil that's not wet and soggy. Somewhat drought-tolerant, but not enough to the point where I would say that they're a low-maintenance or xeriscape-type plant. Not by any means. When growing them in full sun, you need to watch out more for nutrient deficiencies. So stay on top of fertilizing them, making sure they're getting all their iron and potassium and all of those things. Manganese, magnesium, the things that palm trees love. It's going to help keep them nice and green, as well as making sure that you'll get nice, thick trunkage on them. Higher humidity, more frequent water, and more nutritious watering, meaning fertilizing and supplementation, is when you get those really nice fat trunks. That you don't, up where I live as potted plants, you do not see them with the really fat, smooth trunks very often. This is pretty much about as big as they get. But I've been working on it for years, trying to figure out the trick to keeping them in a pot up north and getting that type of growth out of them, but so far I have yet to master it. Even when I do see them with those really big fat gray trunks on them, typically those are ones that were brought up from Florida and someone purchased them, and within a couple years they slowly shrivel and kind of pencil out. Maybe it's just a climate thing, a humidity, and just not having the heat enough of the year to keep them actively absorbing their nutrients at the same capacity or at an even capacity. I don't know, and I'm just kind of rambling. Sorry. Right, so, indoors, watch out for spider mites. Water them often, don't let their soil stay wet for too terribly long. And I have noticed, in the past, I have used dry water. When I did keep these indoors, I used these products, and they helped so much with keeping them alive. It's just a gel. You cut them out of the plastic, you dig a hole inside the soil, drop this into the hole, drop the gel into that, and there's a cap that goes on it, but I don't know where my caps went, and so, you know, this is all below the dirt, and they slowly can take out the water from there. I like this better than the loose granules that you put into your pots, because once it's in your soil, it's there. This, you're containing it, and typically with my Adonidias in a pot under 20 inches, I use anywhere from 2 to 4 of these guys. I'm not using them out here in my grow space this year because I don't need to. They're really close to the aquaponics tub. They're getting watered plenty on their own, and the air is more humid out here. The air inside my home, very dry. So these were lifesavers the year that I did keep these in my house. They worked very, very well. I think you have to change them out about every 30 days. And you still have to water the plant. But these just seem to help spread out your watering a smidge. But you still need to water them. Yeah, so okay, that's about it. They're a very common palm, particularly in Florida. And because of that, you know, I think sometimes they're really overlooked. They're maybe taken for granted by a lot of people, as it's just like, oh, look at that bush or that tree or that, it's just a palm tree. Really, they're fantastic. They're beautiful. I mean, even more so when you can actually see them and they're not surrounded by plants. But, yeah, they make me really happy. And their growth is, I'd say, at a medium pace, and because of that, and they propagate fairly easily too. So they're not usually too terribly expensive, depending on where you live. Up here where I live, they're all brought up on trucks from Florida, and because of that, they cost more because, you know, the gas and what it takes to get them up here. As far as potted culture goes with palms, something that you can move in and out of your home, there aren't a ton of palm trees that have these trunks on them. You know, majesty palms are sold like crazy, and they just look like a giant fern, and they do not do well indoors. I mean, these do better indoors than a majesty palm does, in my opinion and in my experience. But there's variabilities in that. But it's just not easy to find a small palm that has such a nice, clean, straight trunk on it, or curved trunk, or whatever shape the trunk, just a nice, clean trunk. That's one of the things I love about them, is the trunk. Which might seem stupid, but trunked palms look more mature, and so having that mature look makes them that much cooler, even when they're small. It's that neat dwarf factor like I was talking about. And I love how the branches arch out and the fun little spindlies that hang from them, like you can see over here. They're overall just awesome, even if they're a little bit finicky when it comes to indoor care. They're still one of my faves. Alright, but that's gonna do it. Hope everybody's doing well. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Share the video if you want to. You can follow me on Snapchat, Trop Plant Party, Instagram, Tropical Plant Party, and Twitter, Tropical Plant JC. I use Twitter more than anything else. Comment down below. Don't know if I said that or not already, but go ahead and do it. Talk about the palm. I know a fair amount of people who watch my videos are in Florida, and I've seen these in your yards before, and I'm very, very, very jealous of you. Okay, yeah, it's time to stop talking. So, as always, everybody, keep on growing. Bye-bye!